Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion, Plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. Hello, Tomo. Do you have a meow? Are you in a meow-rich environment right now? He wants attention so much, and I'm gonna give it to him. But first, do you want a meow? Are you gonna meow, my son? Oh, he's so happy. Why are you so happy, Tomo? A happy Tomo is a recipe for a good afternoon. Usually this cat is very reserved. Him wanting attention is a bit of a rare sign. Right, Tomo? Oh, he's spinning. He's spinning. He's rubbing his head up against my hand. Okay, buddy. I gotta record a little bit, alright, Tomo? I gotta record a little bit. You keep prancing, okay? You keep prancing, buddy. He might meow, but I don't think so. Anyway, for now, I've got a renewed amount of enthusiasm for randomness. Sure, you might occasionally get a screwed up run on random, but at the very least, you won't find yourself with 2.97 damage. Hold on. Hold on. Now Tomo would like to leave. He said, I understand the way that this goes. Once you start talking to that device, you don't pet me anymore. So I'm going to leave. And you know what? I encourage you to leave. I encourage you. Go find yourself something to do. I'll get my ergonomic setup going here. I think we're... Honestly, this is pretty good. Okay. And you know, Isaac is like having an old friend. Sometimes, you might have a friend who says some things that annoy you. You might even be like, how dare you say that? But unless it's truly abhorrent, you know? You want to give your chance a friend for some reconciliation. You know what I mean? Isaac has, to some extent, in my opinion, treated us a little badly over the course of the past 2 or 3 months. And I think that those problems are more systematic than I'd like to admit. I think that they are not just issues of clumped variance. I think that we're, you know, they speak to something a little bit higher up in... Oh my god. Did you hear that dog? They speak to something a little bit higher up in the Isaac food chain, if that makes any sense. You know, I think they are symbolic of some design issues that I might have with the game. However, I still love the game. I love what it is. I love what it ain't. Let's hit the attic and hide out for about 2 weeks. You know, okay, there goes the spirit heart. So basically, you know, you want to give it a chance to, you know, prove that it can still be fun, that it can still be hip, that it can still be with it. Tucka, 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 tucka. So that's what we're doing right now. We're giving it a chance to prove itself. So the secret room is definitely there. I have to apologize, by the way. I can tell, like, I'm just a little off today. Not mood-wise, but, like, you know, we've been doing, like, a lot of, you know, important errands because we're moving relatively soon. Lots of stuff, you know, there haven't been many, like, free nights recently. And it's having a little impact on... I'm having, like, not a... Mental breakdown is a strong word. I'm feeling slightly exhausted / rundown / burned out. Not from work, but from the fact that after work, you know, there's been so much stuff to do. I don't feel like I get... or I don't feel like I've had, I should say, adequate recharging time lately. Moreover, I've had like a few nights, and this is not really me complaining too much, but I've had a few nights of interrupted sleep in a row. Last night when Kate and I were eating dinner, I was like, I don't care if I sleep for 7 hours or 2 hours, but, you know, I just hope that I get well, okay, 2 hours is obviously crazy, but I hope I get uninterrupted sleep. Fell asleep, you know, probably around 1 a.m. Woke up around 6 to the cats going meow, meow, meow. Oh, not roof, roof, roof. Fell asleep after, I don't know, half an hour of that. Because, I mean, how do you make a cat stop talking? It's a hard thing to do. Sometimes there are things, you know, they're like, hey, there's no food. And you're like, you know what? I'll give you some food. Maybe, you know, here's the thing. If your kid is like, you know, I want Doritos. And you're like, you know, I don't want to give you Doritos because I don't want to, you know, create the pattern of a lifelong habit where anytime you're emotionally upset, you reach for a corn chip. You know, I think it's a... with a child, you have to kind of put your foot down so that you don't allow the child to create more bad habits than is necessary. But with a cat, I'm like, your whole purpose in life is ornamental, without being rude. Your purpose as it relates to human beings is ornamental, at least. So sometimes if they're meowing, I'll be like, yeah, I'll give you a little bit of food. Probably still has a similar psychological impact, but you know, you get the idea. I don't think the effect of it is as catastrophic. Let's put it that way. But sometimes they just meow for no reason, or it's not no reason, but it's a reason that cannot be articulated in human language. I think one of them is like, you know, Tomo used my litter box, and then I'm like, you know, it's both of you. Nobody has a litter box. The litter box is for both of you. And then he's like, yeah, but Tomo used it, you know? So it's a whole thing. Then I woke up at like, you know, an hour after that. And my body was just like, you know, hey, remember that time you called your 3rd grade teacher mom instead of her real name and everyone laughed at you? Let's just ruminate on that. And even though on a logical level, you know, you don't feel bad about it, apparently there's still some deep-seated trauma there that's worth exploring right now. Seems very relevant to your current interests. Joker? Yo, this is a series of very good cards, though. Anyway. So I just said, just some bad sleep combined with, you know, normal work, and work is fine, combined with all this stuff we've been having to do for moving. Like, this morning was a mess. I'll just level with you. So last night, we took a bunch of stuff out of storage that we're going to need to move. It was really heavy. Like, I've been working out, but it was still, like, some heavy stuff that I was lugging around until, like, 11 p.m. at night, which is later than I would like to be doing it, but that's okay. But then I was like, I really don't want this to have a bad impact. Yo, let's go. We've completely reworked the run. Especially with car battery, the nail is so good here. I was like, I hope this doesn't have an impact on my workout. Spoilers. You know, woke up this morning. First off, couldn't find my keys. So I was like, oh no, I bet when I was lifting all that stuff last night, they probably popped out of my pocket. I went looking for those for like half an hour before I did anything else in the morning. Couldn't find them, and I was like, okay, whatever, I gotta go work out. I'll take Kate's keys for now and go look at them later. So psychologically, I was already mad at myself because I lost my keys. And then I go work out, and I'm trying to, you know, lift the amount of weight, commensurate with the amount of weight I lifted, you know, the last time I did these workouts, and my body is just like, nah, dude. And I'm like, why? And it's like, well, you didn't sleep well, you've been too busy to eat enough. You know, and then you got the stress of the keys, and you've been lifting the stuff last night, and I was like, oh, fine. So I had legitimately, I had like a D- workout, just like a terrible workout, which happens from time to time, but pretty rarely. And then I, came back up, and I found my keys. You want to know where they were? Jean pocket. Don't talk to me. If you've never had that exact situation happen to you, you're not a human being, okay? That's a ubiquitous situation. Hey, Kate, where are my keys? Did you check your jeans? Duh. Obviously, I checked my jeans. That's the first place I checked. Then she's like, okay, I'll look for them. She's like, I found them. Guess where? And you're like, oh, please, God. Please, God, don't say my jeans. And the thing is, you did look in your jeans, but for some reason... I get this from my dad, for sure. I'm not as funny about it as he is. But this situation will happen to my dad, and he'll temporarily blame my mom, I think, because he's embarrassed. And he's like, well, they weren't there when I looked, so maybe you put them there. She's just like, that's ridiculous. That just, what motive could I have possibly had for that? And he's like, you know what, you're right. Anyway. So yeah, it's been an off day, but like, I only say that to be frank. I'm not asking for sympathy, you know? Good videos today, except for that one Isaac episode, and, you know, that video being bad was not really something I had too much control over, in my opinion. And a good NLSS, you know, it was the first day we got to play the new Jackbox game, which is someone on the subreddit described it very nicely. It's like an NLSS holiday. You know, it's a new Jackbox day. Always adds a lot of variety to the docket. So it's been a good day. I just, honestly, I've realized as I've gotten older, you know? Everybody has bad days, you know? I think the idea that happiness is an emotional state where you feel 100% good at all times is a very naive idea. I think everybody has bad days, you know? The best you can probably do is recognize when you're having a bad day and diagnose what's the reason for that bad day. Because sometimes I'm having a bad day, and I think I finally understand the expression, getting out on the wrong side of bed. Because all it takes sometimes, and I don't really want slip drip here. Fire rate's okay. I'd prefer a more static statistical improvement if possible, but it don't make me regret not taking Epiphora. Okay, so I probably would have been better off with Epiphora, but at least Ghost Pepper does something for us. You know, so whatever you do first thing in the day, depending on how that goes, I think that can determine, you know, whether or not your day is going to go off okay. But sometimes if there's a proximate cause for your day being not so good, you can recognize it, try to root it out. Hey, why do I feel like today's a bad day? Oh, I'm hungry. Well, eat something, dummy. It's not rocket science. Or you could choose not to eat something and just continue to, you know, be mad because being mad feels good sometimes. But sometimes, you know, you're just like, yeah, it's just not much you can do, just ride it out. So I am very much looking forward to tonight's sleep. I am like it's only 6:15 p.m. and I'm looking with bedroom eyes, if you know what I mean. I can feel the cold side of the pillow touching my cheek. I know it's not the best for your spine, by the way, but I have to admit I'm a side sleeper. I oscillate a little bit between side and belly. People are very, they have strong opinions over the way you should sleep. The tower. I don't know if sleeping on your back is actually better for your spine. I'm wary about saying things like that because I think everyone's like, of course it is. But have you ever heard a spinal expert say that? Or have you merely heard it repeated by a bunch of people who may not know what they're talking about? Now, you gotta, you know, throw yourselves on the shoulders of giants, you know? My understanding of the laws of the world, like the physical world, come from people smarter than myself that I just trust, you know? I've never derived acceleration due to gravity myself. Edward Norton did it. He was the chief fellow at the Royal Society. You know, the apple fell on Edward Norton's head as he was filming The Incredible Hulk in 2008, and he said, what the heck, dude? That felt like it accelerated at approximately 9.8 meters per second per second. And you know what? He was absolutely right. Just like he was right to get out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe just before the movie started getting good. He wouldn't want to be typecast in the easiest job in Hollywood. Wait, what was I saying? Okay. Forgot what I was saying. I'm not saying that sleeping on your back is not better for your spine. It very well might be. I'm just saying I'm not sure I've ever heard a legitimate doctor say it. All I've heard is people say, hey, you know, it's better for your spine. You know, it's one of those things that gets repeated a lot, but doesn't actually make coherent scientific sense. Maybe. It might be better for your spine. And coffin rehearsal. I mean, Diplopia is fun. We can at least... Diplopia is one free shop. Not one free shop item. One free shop completely. So, we got Compass. We got King Baby. We got Relax. Which is just the supreme waste of everybody's time. And, was this Ace of Hearts or something? Ace of Clubs, okay. I mean, we just take the fully grown nail into this. This is a really, really, really good run. Yeah, I'm a side sleeper. I'm a back sleeper. Do you guys, or not a back sleeper, sorry. The only time I'm a back sleeper, and I think this is why I can't fall asleep on airplanes, to be honest. I always thought it was a little bit of, like, you know, latent anxiety. Because I can fall asleep, like, I almost have, like, a weirdly Pavlovian thing with buses. I think because, you know, I took the school bus my whole, you know, scholastic life. If I'm on a bus and I'm a little bit tired and it's quiet enough, the rumbling of the, like, it'll put me to sleep. Like, it lulls me to sleep almost to a very dangerous, like, narcoleptic level. I mean, it's not like I'm not driving the bus, so it's not really that big of a deal. But sometimes I'm like, nah, dude, I want to stay awake. But because I think, like, my body is associated the feeling of being on a bus with the feeling of almost being asleep because I had to get on the bus at, like, 7:15 a.m. to make it to school on time. I think that's what's happened there. But I think if I could sit AC Slater style and push my face into the seat back of an airplane, I would be more likely to fall asleep. Because I'm a belly/side sleeper. People are very snobby sometimes about their sleeping. I believe that if you sleep on your back, you think you're better than me. I don't know if that's actually true, but you back sleepers, you always talk like you're better than us. So, you know, you shouldn't sleep like that. It's not, but I don't choose which way to fall asleep, okay? All I do is get into position, shut my eyes, and when I wake up, it's a lottery. I have no idea. You guys have a tell, like how you know you're falling asleep? I think everybody has a very similar tell, at least one, which is sometimes you'll just be feeling like you're walking, and then you, like, miss a step. Like, you slipped up when you were going up the staircase, and you feel like you're falling. It's a very weird thing. I have no idea of what causes it, but I've heard many, many, many other people talk about it. I'm not talking about dreams about falling, really. It's slightly different. It's like when you're in that pre-sleep period where you're just starting to fall asleep. You're like, dun, dun, whoa! You know, and then you're like, I'm falling asleep. For me, it's also, I notice if I ever... Because sometimes, you know, the line between sleep and wake is blurred, right? Like, you don't pay attention to yourself falling asleep, if that makes sense. You have to trick yourself into falling asleep. Sort of. You know what I mean? I think you know what I mean when I say that. The way that I know I'm falling asleep, if not for the falling motion, which I really, to be honest, only notice pretty rarely. If I, like, wake up from a half sleep and I feel that I've drooled out of the side of my mouth, I'm like, dude, oh, I was out. I was gone. And it's a great feeling. Sleep is so weird. I know I talk about it now and then. I mean, like, I fit within the bounds of normalcy on sleeping. Probably, like, once a month or once every 2 weeks I'll have a bad night's sleep. So I think that's honestly pretty merciful. I think a lot of people out there on planet Earth would trade me. So I'm very grateful for that. But, like, it is super weird. Like, I listen to, like, podcasts sometimes when I'm falling asleep. or like a, you know, an audiobook or something like that, and I will wake up but feel like I haven't slept, but remember absolutely nothing that has been said for like the past 2 hours. And I'm like, brain, you're clearly useless right now. Could you just slip into full-on somnambulance, please? Like, there's no reason for you to be awake. You're not doing anything. You might as well just put me out. I started listening to a... It's I don't think it's a weird thing to talk about, but it is a little strange that, you know, I've graduated from true crime documentaries to now, like, consuming a bunch of media about prison. So I've been listening to this podcast. It's really good, and it features inmates from San Quentin prison in the U.S. It's called Ear Hustle, and they ask questions on the podcast that I think if you thought about it, you're like, that's a really good question that I would not know the answer to unless I had actually been in prison. Like, for example, you know, one of the episodes I listened to was like, is it hard to stay asleep in prison because of the constant noise? And people were like, yeah, but also you just get used to it. But it does suck. And there's another one that was like, you know, what's it like to be deaf in prison? Because, you know, not all the guards, obviously, and probably a very, very small proportion of the inmates know sign language, but, like, being able to hear what's happening around you is important. You know, not just for the, you know, dire situations where, like, I don't know, maybe someone's threatening you or something like that, but more so, like, you know, PA announcements and, like, hey, it's lunchtime and blah, blah, blah. And the answer was like, well, you might expect is like, you know, there are services for the hearing impaired in prison, but simultaneously, yeah, it's hard. I mean, that's the answer to most of the questions. Is like, it's hard. I wouldn't say I struggle with this stuff, because like, I'll tell you, I consume it mindfully. That's a much better way to describe it, because you are making entertainment out of someone else's, not suffering necessarily, but misfortune. Like, I don't turn on that podcast and be like, man, I want to hear about how awful life in prison is, so I have a greater appreciation for the fact that my life's not like that. But it's also, you know, I mean, just to be honest, I have a pretty, I guess I'm dancing around. I'm just going to say the P word. I have a pretty privileged family existence where, you know, it's not that I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but I came from a stable family where, you know, my parents were not in prison. You know, my grandparents were never in prison unless they, you know, I guess I wouldn't know if it happened when I was, you know, negative 40, but, you know, I don't know if actually, I don't know if anyone in my family has ever been arrested, even. My mom got a parking ticket once. That's it's honestly like I'm going back, and I mean, I don't know if something had happened when I was like 2, I'm sure they wouldn't be like, by the way, you know, but I'm just saying, what I'm trying to do is not brag, but put it in perspective that this is like, you know, it's a part of society that I have no understanding of at all, and I feel like a lot of people have no understanding of it at all. But for a lot of people, you know, they have either been incarcerated or they have, you know, they have family members who have been incarcerated, and, you know, it's really interesting to hear about stuff like, because, you know, the only exposure I get to, you know, what's life like in prison is movies, and then secondarily shows that, if I'm being honest, are extremely exploitative for the most part. Young and locked up. Undercover inmate, you know? And they're all, I'm not saying they don't give you a realistic portrayal of what life is like in the joint. I picked that one up. There's a little bit of terminology I picked up on the podcast. But it is definitely, those shows are kind of more like, you know, check out how messed up it is inside of this prison. This is a little bit more compassionate. I appreciate that because the interesting part of prison, you know, learning about the, you know, what life is like in there is much less for me at this point. I mean, first off, they're real human beings, not exclusively like objects for my own entertainment, you know? I think it pays to be compassionate there. But secondarily, you know, like, sure, maybe there's fights and, you know, you have disputes with the guards and, you know, maybe there's sketchy stuff going on, violence, drugs, blah, blah, blah. But on top of it, for me, I'm just like, man, what changes do you go through as like a human being if you get sentenced to like 8 years in prison? You know? That's a lot of your life. But you just got, it's not so much that you're like, I'm gonna live the rest of my life in here. But like, how, like, so many questions come to mind for me with stuff like that. You know, do you just treat it like do you try to make your, let me put it this way, because I guess there's multiple approaches people take, you know? Do you take that as an 8-year period to get yourself sorted out and maybe work towards self-improvement, or do you take it as like an 8-year vacation from some of the responsibilities of the adult world that you'd go through on the outside? Or do you, not to say that prison's a vacation, of course, but, you know, alternatively, you know, I don't know, like, what do your ambitions become when your life progress to some extent is put on pause between the ages of like 20 and 28? That's interesting to think about. And then secondarily, also, like, what do you do for the incredibly long stretches of boredom? Because I'm sure, like, everything I've heard in any of these shows is basically like, it sucks, and the food really sucks. But the thing that sucks the most is, well, not seeing your family and also having no connection to the outside world, but then just being bored constantly. I don't know. It's interesting to think about. That's my 2 cents on that subject. And then anyway, the show's called Ear Hustle. It is it's a cool podcast. I think it comes out like 1 episode every 2 weeks. In case you're curious to listen to it, I would recommend it if you're interested in that sort of stuff. Now, is it my favorite podcast? I mean, favorite podcast? It's got to be an exact, unsplittable 2-way tie between Mathis Chuluminati podcast and the Dan Giesling podcast, obviously. It's got to be one of those two. Or it's got to be both of those two equally, I mean to say. But, and then you got Hardcore History. But I gotta be honest, I know Dan Carlin's real busy. I'm not saying what have you done for me lately. But it has been 9 months since the last episode, Dan. I know you're working on a book and other projects, but I need to know what happens to the rise of Emperor Hirohito in the mid-20th century. I'm waiting with bated breath for facts that I could just look up on Wikipedia, but I want to hear them from you. Anyway, that's this whole episode, which has been mercifully short. I still got a lot more work to do tonight, to be fair, but all I've been thinking about is the cool side of the pillow and learning how to make prison wine out of ketchup packets and old fruit. Oh, and it's gonna take me away to dreamland. I got a smile on my face and some tingles down my spine just thinking about it. For now, though, I hope you had a good night's sleep watching this video. If you enjoyed it, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya!